clogged nozzles. Happens to everybody. It's next to impossible to make go away all the time anyways. So something's going to always occur to cause a clogged nozzle. The hardest thing to figure out is that you have a clogged nozzle, unless it fully clogs. When I just did the upgrade to the control box from the Tronxy, they were randomly stopping no matter what I did. And it's printing along and it just would stop. I run Octoprint and I thought for quite a while that it was Octoprint causing the problem. So I finally, after fighting with that a whole bunch, I ended up getting another Raspberry Pi that I'm going to be putting in, this one specifically I'm going to be putting into my Prusa Mark III when it shows up. But I got that one loaded up and I tried to run that one instead of the Raspberry Pi 3 with the camera on it that I've got on it. And after giving all that up, I was like, okay, well, what else could it be? It was just randomly stopping, printing along just fine, decent results, some zits, stuff like that. You probably can't see too well, but decent results. I was pretty happy with it, but it would just then stop. So finally, a friend at work, Mike, gave me an idea that maybe it was the board. He had issues with a similar board where it would do similar things, and I figured, what the heck. I bit the bullet and got an Arduino 2650 R3, I think. He recommended with a RAMPS 1.4. It was actually a really fun project. I probably should have done something on it, but there was honestly so many videos out there. Yeah, I didn't see the point. Plus, I really didn't know exactly what I was doing, kind of winged it, but it worked. It was really pretty easy. Don't be nervous if you have to do it. It was really just a matter of following some videos and then common sense stuff, and had to make a couple little connectors, but for the most part it was plug and play. Yeah, you got the Arduino board, pop on the ramps above that, put some drivers on top of it, plug in, boop, voila, you're done. So anywho, after I had proven that it wasn't Octoprint by going to an SD card, and I had two prints stopped there, I replaced this. So now this is kind of a bookend at this point. I don't know what the heck I'll ever do with it, but I started trying to print and set everything up, and everything for the most part was looking good. But then I ran into some extruder problems. For some reason, I had no issues prior to this. I mean, everything, the prints extruded well, all looked good, never really had any jams, didn't think I had anything going on. Put all this thing back together, and all I could get was slow speed extrusion. So I tried to calibrate the extruder, which was where it all came out as a problem. As soon as I told it to do 100 millimeters, it started clicking. It would go about 20 millimeters and start clicking and skipping. Occasionally it would grind through the filament. Just a total mess. Messed with the amount I was extruding, the amount of per step, the flow rates, everything. I did everything I could to slow everything down, and nothing was enough, and I would slow it down finally to a point where it would actually extrude, but then it was just massively under extruding. And then I was kind of at a loss, kind of put things back to a general idea, and kind of thought about it as I was watching it extrude, and I got the telltale little pigtail. So when you extrude, if everything's working fine, it should come out in a nice straight line. It literally should just kind of come out and be like a droop, right? Just straight out. Well, mine looked like a pig's tail. Kind of had my mindset that I needed to do the nozzle, but it was the end of the day. I gave up. Talked with a buddy of mine, Mike, today, and he confirmed what I was saying. So then I decided I would deal with it. So the way you do this, one of the best ways of doing it, of course you can use the old acupuncture needle, but in this case I wanted to actually do a real pull, and you can do what's called a cold pull. So what you're basically doing is you heat up your nozzle to just above what's normal and let it sit for a little bit. And the idea behind it is that you're letting everything get nice and hot and gooey and ready to flow. You'll get a lot of ooze from the nozzle and keep that nice and clean. And then at that point, you shut your nozzle off, the heater. So you let it start cooling down. Watch your temperature really closely, and you're going to wait for it to get to basically past 120 degrees going towards 110. And when that starts happening, you loosen the extruder and you do a cold pull. Sometimes you have to pull, like this time I had to actually pull pretty hard, and it breaks free. And what it's done is inside the nozzle, which I don't have one broke apart here, but inside the nozzle you've got the space from the bottom of where the bottom tube stops, goes through your heat break into the nozzle area, and all of that can gather crap, especially if you let one bake too long and you get messy filament. So I ended up doing that, and I did a pull, and honestly I didn't videotape any of it because I didn't think it was really going to fix the problem. But what I did was did the cold pull, and then we'll see if you can see this. This is what comes out. And you can see all the kind of dark, nasty bits that were stuck inside there. And it's, if you look at it, it was obviously a sheath of stuff in there causing the filament, because it's almost crystallized. And it's all dark and burned, and yeah, it really looks bad. So I'm hoping that really helps. I've never really had to do this a whole lot. I haven't had that many nozzles clogged, but I'm pretty careful with them. So I'm going to do this one more time and see what comes out, and then maybe I'll, if it's clean, this will be the end of the video. Otherwise, maybe I'll show you that you sometimes have to do this, from what I'm reading, 2, 3, 4 times, depending on how bad your nozzle is. Of course, you could take it all apart, but this is kind of a way so you don't have to take it all apart and pull the nozzle off and dig the stuff out. So we'll do this, and then we'll see if I have to do more. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing my second pull, and I'm using Octoprint on this tablet to connect to the Raspberry Pi, which is right here. So this is my Octoprint. As you can see, you set the temperature that you want to do right there, and then you can watch the graph going up here where it's actually heating everything up. So then if you look at this side, you can actually see that I'm sitting right now at 210. So the idea behind this, and that's the Raspberry Pi, is, and that's of course my Tronxy. So I'm back again, and we're going to extrude a little bit of filament. My nozzles, I'm at 200C, and which should be hot enough to flow well. Because you can see this filament is, 195, 215, 200 should be plenty good. And I'm going to see kind of what it looks like and how it flows. I just went to Octoprint, and I'm putting in 20 millimeters, and I'm extruding. And the cool part is you see how it went straight down. It didn't curly Q around. It just came right out, which is awesome. That's what it should do. So it's kind of telling me, tweezers, if you don't have some, get some, that I'm probably in pretty good shape. I'm going to do one, I'm actually, as a test, I'm going to do 100 millimeters and see if it does what it did before. So I'm going into Octoprint, and I'm going to change it over to 100 and hit extrude. We'll see if I start popping. See how it's doing this? That's not promising. See, did you hear that? That's the extruder popping. So I think there's still something in there. In fact, I can see little bits coming out of the filament. So that tells me that it's still got some issues going on in there. So I'm going to do another cold pull. So at this point I'm going to do a cool down of the nozzle. And I'm going to tell it to stop. And you can see this is now commanded. Well, you probably can't see. Sorry for the little new camera setup. You got 0 as a command, and then it's cooling down. Right now it's at a 187. Okay, so I'm down to 118. I am going to loosen the little lever here and pull. And it really takes one. I can tell there's a little knot in the end. And I will cut this at a 45 just to prepare it. I don't want to lose my tag in and then screw up what's left of that roll. So the nozzle, sorry I was so quick, but is this lever here? You loosen that just enough on the Tronxy. If you go too far, you'll bind your filament. So just enough that you got a nice loosen, and then you just pull. Don't gently tug. I mean, you want to give it a good thump. I probably could have waited for it to get even colder, because what you have here is you can actually see that it's a little bit of a bump on the end, and really what that is the full chamber down there. And unfortunately for me, I'm not seeing a lot of stuff in there, so I don't have high hopes that completely finished my problem, but it looks like it definitely got a bunch of crapola out of there, which is a good thing. Yeah. So there you go. That's how you, for the most part, unclog a nozzle. Time will tell, see how it goes.